Jacob arrives in Egypt by Louis Ginzberg. When the Egyptian nobles observed their viceroy completing his preparations to meet his father, they did the same. 313 Indeed, Joseph had issued a proclamation throughout the land, threatening with death all that did not go forth to meet Jacob. The procession that accompanied him was composed of countless men, arrayed in byssus and purple, and marching to the sound of all sorts of musical instruments. Even the women of Egypt had a part in the reception ceremonies. They ascended to the roofs of the houses and the walls of the cities, ready to greet Jacob with the music of cymbals and timbrels. Joseph wore the royal crown upon his head. Pharaoh had yielded it to him for the occasion. He descended from his chariot when he was at a distance of about 50 ells from his father, and walked the rest of the way on foot, and his example was followed by the princes and nobles of Egypt. When Jacob caught sight of the approaching procession, he was rejoiced. 314, and even before he recognized Joseph, he bowed down before him, but for permitting his father to show him this mark of honor, punishment was visited upon Joseph. He died an untimely death before the years of life assigned to him had elapsed. 315. That no harm befall Jacob from a too sudden meeting with him, Joseph sent his oldest son ahead with 5 horses, the second son following close after him in the same way. As each son approached, Jacob thought he beheld Joseph, and so he was prepared gradually to see him face to face. 316. Meantime Jacob had espied, from where he was seated, a man in royal robes among the Egyptians, a crown upon his head, and a purple mantle over his shoulders, and he asked Judah who it might be. When he was told that it was Joseph, his joy was great over the high dignity attained by his son. By this time Joseph had come close to his father, and he bowed himself before him down to the earth. And all the people with him likewise prostrated themselves. 317. Then Joseph fell upon his father's neck, and he wept bitterly. He was particularly grieved that he had permitted his father to bow down before him, but a little while before without hindering it. At the very moment when Joseph embraced his father, Jacob was reciting the Shema, and he did not allow himself to be interrupted in his prayer. 319, but then he said, "When they brought me the report of the death of Joseph, I thought I was doomed to double death, that I should lose this world and the world to come as well. The Lord had promised to make me the ancestor of 12 tribes, and as the death of my son rendered it impossible that this promise should be realized, I feared I had incurred the doom by my own sins, and as a sinner I could not but expect to forfeit the future world too. But now that I have beheld thee alive, I know that my death will be only for the world here below." 320. Such was the manner of Jacob's arrival in Egypt. He came with his whole family, 69 persons they were in all, but the number was raised to 70 by the birth of Jochebed, afterward the mother of Moses, which took place when the cavalcade had advanced to the space between the one and the other city wall. All the males in his family were married men, even Pulu and Hezron, the latter of whom was but 1 year old at the time of their migration, and the former but 2 years, had the wives with them that had been chosen for them by their parents. 322. In general, all the sons and grandsons of Jacob had married young. Some of them had been fathers at the age of 7. 323. Joseph took some from among his brethren, and presented them to Pharaoh. He chose the weakest of them, that the king might not be tempted to retain them in his service as warriors. 324. And as he did not desire his family to live at close quarters with the Egyptians and perhaps amalgamate with them, he introduced them as shepherds. The Egyptians worshipped the constellation of the rain, and paid divine honors to animals, and they kept aloof from shepherds. Pharaoh therefore was inclined to grant Joseph's wish, to give them the pasture land of Goshen for their sojourning place, the land that was theirs by right, for the Pharaoh that took Sarah away from Abraham by force had given it to her as her irrevocable possession. 325. In their conversation with Pharaoh, the brethren of Joseph made it plain to the Egyptian king that it was not their intention to remain in Egypt forever. It was to be only a temporary dwelling place. 326. Then Joseph set Jacob his father before Pharaoh, and when the king saw him, he said to Og, who happened to be with him at that moment, "Seest thou wast wont to call Abraham a sterile mule, and here is his grandson with a family of 70 persons." Og would not believe his own eyes. He thought Abraham was standing before him, so close was the resemblance between Jacob and his progenitor. Then Pharaoh asked about Jacob's age, to find out whether he actually was Jacob and not Abraham. And Jacob said unto Pharaoh, "The days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years," using the word pilgrimage in reference to life on earth, which the pious regard as a temporary sojourn in alien lands. "Few and evil," he continued, have been the days of the years of my life. In my youth I had to flee to a strange land on account of my brother Esau. And now, in my old age, I must again go to a strange land, and my days have not attained unto the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage. These words sufficed to convince Pharaoh and Og that the man standing before them was not Abraham, but his grandson 327. When Jacob uttered the words, "The days of the years of my pilgrimage have been few and evil," God said to him, "Jacob, I saved thee out of the hands of Esau and Laban, I restored Joseph unto thee, and made him to be a king and a ruler, and yet thou speakest of few and evil days. Because of thy ingratitude, thou wilt not attain unto the days of the years of the life of thy fathers." And Jacob died at an age 33 years less than his father Isaac's 328. On going out from the presence of Pharaoh, Jacob blessed the king with the words, "May the years still in store for me be given unto thee, and may the Nile overflow its banks henceforth again and water the land." His words were fulfilled. In order to show that the pious are a blessing for the world, God caused the Nile to rise above its bed and fructify the land of Egypt 329.